Welcome to Tone Talk.
What's up, y'all? This is Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks, ready to have a discussion today. A discussion that's long overdue. For the better part of a decade, I've been discussing wealth with you in a way that I feel like no black economist, no black professor, definitely none of these Earn Your Leisure or Boyce Watkins folks have really talked to you about it. And now it's time to give you that ultimate lesson. It's going to be hard to hear, but I'm going to definitely back it up by showing you information, resources, and data coming from the Federal Reserve and the like. And what I believe we're at is a position where now is very clear in the information that once the black boomers pass on due to a lack of politics, due to a belief in Nixonian black capitalism pushed on you up to the present by people like Boyce Watkins and Earn Your Leisure, there will be literally no black wealth. It'll be so nominal that will basically not register. And many of you are feeling that impact in your life, from driving Uber to not being able to afford basic things like food and not having stability in terms of how you're going to house yourself. You can wait for tomorrow or hear it today. It really doesn't matter too much what you do at this point. Many of you actually voted against your own interest and voted for Trump, which will expedite that. When I say expedite, take it from a 7-year window to a 1 to 2 year window as he cuts your Section 8 or your Medicaid. But what I'm more so focused in on this show is how I'm going to show you in data what's happening is that black wealth is disappearing. And the only time we saw blacks really gain like some kind of wealth in number was during the era post-civil rights, post the New Deal, where black boomers were able to take advantage of the crumbs falling off of white tables and made themselves, in many cases, in far too many cases, brochure babies. So you know that face that go on the cover of the university magazine or the cover of the community newspaper. So now we're here at that consequence, and nobody is really grasping what this means for their lives. Somebody might say, what's the solution? Well, there is going to be a solution. You're just not going to have no wealth. And you probably don't have none now. I showed you for the better part of a decade in many of these cities, middle black family worth $200 in LA, 50 or so in Atlanta, 8 in Boston. Those are not really, like, if you don't have money in your account and you have two, meaning real 30,000, 50,000, that's a low end. You're really not a stable American family participating in the American dream. You just kind of here. Let's talk about it. So I want to talk about it's over. Black wealth will disappear when retired baby boomers are gone. But to give that lesson, I have to talk about it in the context of what many of you were raised in. My mama was basically damn near a Gen Xer. She basically, as a result, didn't participate in any of the privileges, advantages, and things that many of your parents got to take part in. Well, in many ways, as a result, I didn't get the things and the soccer practices and all that stuff y'all had. But what's going to happen now for many of you that are 40 to 50 years old is your parent won't be able to do the adult things it takes to really make you an American in terms of the American dream, which is transfer that wealth. Some of that's going to be due to choice. They just don't give a And then y'all, you know, you got people out here who mama voted for Trump asking them for money. You got people out here who mama and daddy got a house, but they not going to leave it to them. They just going to spend it all on a vacation. And you got to reconcile where that's at. And then there's a lot of y'all who mama and daddy never had no wealth. And you can't miss that window what happened during the boomer era, because now this is hibernation period. So we're going to talk about what I mean as I get into the data. The reason I have this up on your screen is this is the image of the post-Nixonian black capitalism lie, which I'll discuss later, in Reaganomics, that led to the imagery of the Huxtables and the Bill Cosby. I showed you 10 years ago, 8 years ago, how that didn't make no sense. It was in a $9 million brownstone that they would have had to buy for somewhere around $1,800,000 in the early 80s when the wealthiest black people were buying $200,000 homes. So they gave you fantasy. They gave you the Butler. They gave you the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and they gave you the family that had the Butler, and they didn't tell you that the real Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a white family with a guy named Benny Medina, who was a immigrant living in their back house or whatever. All right, there wasn't no black family like that. But what it did is it created this visual of this new black middle class and of this black person that had arrived, right? And that's these people now. And you also had this narrative of being entirely self-interested, telling your kids that there is a will, never showing it to them. Let me say that again. Telling your kids that there is inheritance, never showing it to them. Even telling your kids there's a college fund until it's time to go to college, and then you don't give them no fund. So now they got student loans, and you're saying why you got student loans. Well, part of it is because you didn't have no fund, and another part is because you didn't do no politics. Let's talk about it today. So we hear now in the black baby boomers, many not that well educated, were able to take advantage of the ride up. What ride up? There was a slight ride up that happened as the crumbs fell off of the white table and they signed up for policy. I talked to you guys about Prop 13 here in Los Angeles. There is no way that black families should have signed up for Prop 13 to help white people hide their tax advantages that they were building into their homes. And now you up there eating fires, crying, but you didn't pay for your taxes on that $1 million house. And all the other black people didn't have no services. Huh? Or for that matter, we look at Trump's tax cuts, and I want you to go read the articles. They talking about cutting Medicaid. You know what they talking about not cutting? Medicare. Medicare is for the old people. So as long as I'm okay, then everything's all right. Okay. All right. So here we are. Somebody said they don't even be having life insurance policies. And we're not talking about when my grandmama died, I didn't even know that well. I had to put up 3 racks to bury her. When I say I didn't know that well, I might have met her 10 times and talked to her 10 minutes each time, 20 minutes each time. What I'm saying to you is that we are at a point now where money don't flow up and we are being left with the consequence of a lifetime of bad choices. Let's talk about it. Let's get personal. 310-388-3499 if you want to call in and give your testimony. I want to talk about wealth today. You see this little boom right here, all black wealth, all black boomer wealth. We're going to make sure them pensions is okay and get fortified. We're going to make sure that our house has the Prop 13 tax exemption, but we're not going to do nothing about them student loans. Huh? We're not going to have no child care credits for middle wage to high wage black people that don't have no assistance. Huh? Okay. So when you look at this chart, look how white people are taking off. I've shown it to you before, but this is real because the reason stuff is expensive is because it's not expensive. They just lying to you. It's just you don't get no transfer. We don't live on labor alone anymore. In fact, that's not even the main ingredient. It's an additive. The main ingredient, if you live good in America, is transfers, period. And anybody that's not telling you that don't know nothing about living good in America. Well, I'll get into details later on with an article out of Forbes that talks about the sneaky ways that white boomers are helping their children that are 40 years old, that are 50 years old. Are you getting help or are you giving people $3,000 at the end? Okay. Okay, we here. So everybody that's in here probably has something that they dealing with at home. They probably have something where you become grandmama and mama for somebody that wasn't grandmama and mama. Okay. But while you're doing that, for you to understand the calamity of your situation, you not only have to understand it's over and there will be no black wealth, but what life looks like after that. And so you don't blame yourself. And also how you're going to look across that world and you're going to see other people who life don't look like yours because they did get what they were supposed to get. This money that white wealth people have right here, I notice it stops in 2021. It's going to keep growing. They're going to get to 150, 175, $200 trillion in wealth. And black people will go from this and it will collapse down because there's been no politics that supports American descendants of slavery or black people at large. And we here now. There's levels to this conversation. For those people that will say they don't know what I'm talking about, this is what I'm talking about. And this is everyday white man. friend of mine told me his daughter graduated Bucknell University. In the chat, how many people heard of Bucknell? That means anywhere USA University. He didn't say Harvard. He didn't say Princeton. He didn't say UCLA. He said Bucknell. Now, I'm not trying to put Bucknell down, but this is all across America. The cost you pay to have a child that graduates from a high-end university, that's your bill, Black Boomer. Did you pay it or not? Because if you didn't pay it, they're going to have to pay it, and their life not going to be good because it's not built for them to pay it. Oh, what you talking about, Tom? Friend of mine told me his daughter graduated Bucknell University, and he spent $360,000 on her education their last 4 years. She majored in animal behavior, and now she's living at home making $18 an hour at an amusement park. But she at home and she good, and she gonna inherit that house. What you gonna inherit? I told you about my grandmama. When my mama died, she left me payday loan cards with nothing in them. I don't expect nothing to be in them. You cannot be here and be comfortable and build lives that are comfortable where it isn't felt by your partner, where it isn't felt by your children in this America without transfers that support you. I want y'all to understand, I'm going to get real with you. Many of you say to yourself, if I had become a lawyer, well, I'm a lawyer. Many of you say to yourself, if I had become a doctor, if I had went to UCLA, I'm here to take the I out, because that makes you feel strong. Like Popeye with that spinach. I'm here today to slow this thing down and explain to you that what will happen in the next several years, and it's already here for many of you, is that there will be no Black wealth as Black boomers pass on, and I will show you in specifics what I mean. Okay. Okay. All the people in the chat, I know it's going to be a lot of people listening. Many of you will say, well, these other channels get Mr. Beast or Tariq get all these views because he's talking about who dating who. He talking about a game show. We sitting up in here going to have 1,000 people talking about data. Tell me where you see that at. And I'm not saying I created this data. I'm saying that I am explaining it in a very applicable way that has needed to be done for Black folks for a generation. Grandma know. Grandma know. Let me play something for you that gives this an anchoring. I want you to listen to this Black grandma talk about what she gonna do with her money when she pass on. Let me play it.
A dream can become a reality. It was a struggle for me to own it, but it was worth it.
Good morning.
By the early 1990s, Miss Plowden, who worked at St. Paul's Church, finally could afford to buy a home of her own. How much did you pay for your home? Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember. It was $120,000.
And what is your home worth now?
Over $500,000.
So when you pass on and you leave that to your children, you're leaving an estate.
Yes, I am, but I don't intend to leave them a paid-for house. I intend to enjoy my money and my house.
So she said she's not gonna leave that house. She already gonna leave no money. She gonna enjoy her money in her house, but we still going to Thanksgiving. Okay. While this white man said he paid $360,000 for his kid to go to college and then let her live at home while she make $18 an hour. Okay. Part of the reality of this show is to explain to you that you are not living in America, you are living under it. And that you can be living in the same house with a grandma that waves by to you as you go drive Uber and she gone to sleep. And you telling me, well, what she could have done, what could she do about it? What she was supposed to do about it was 20, 30 years ago. That's already been decided. Okay. Here we go. Part of the reason I showed that video is to give a greater context. The white man says, well, you can leave some inheritance. And she said, I don't intend to leave nothing. I'm going to enjoy it. All right. This is while this is happening. The great wealth transfer isn't 72 trillion, but rather 129 trillion. B of A says, and the government gave most of it. B of A says, and the government gave most of it to baby boomers. You've probably heard, let me slow down. The government gave baby boomers money. They allowed them to grow it with policies that allowed them to have reduced taxation in old age, reduced taxation based on timing. Prop 13, go look it up in California, capped the property taxes after 78 based on when you purchase it and only go up 2%. So they created an inherent advantage for boomers and then kicked the can down the road. They made it so their college was free. Then allowed them to bankrupt anything that they had left over, then changed that in the 90s so that anybody after that can't bankrupt the loans. The reason bankruptcy is important isn't about irresponsibility. It's about making sure that you give out responsible loans. I'll talk about that later. It's about making sure you have negotiation leverage when they don't want to work with you. Oh, I can bankrupt this. Oh, let me see if I can make a better payment. You can't bankrupt it. They treat that like it's IRS debt. Okay, now you see where I'm going. You've probably heard about the great wealth transfer. It's the 72 trillion stack of assets that baby boomers are sitting on and going to pass on to millennials someday. Well, it's no longer someday. That day is today. Part of the reason that the entry house in Los Angeles is $700,000 to $800,000 is straight because of transfers. Ain't nobody making that work. I showed you before how few black people even break 100,000, let alone $300,000. That is not work that you're seeing when people that are 35 and 40 buy an $800,000 home. That is legacy and transfers, and no one experiences the cost of that more than American descendants of slavery. Black folks that are from the legacy of American slavery here. Let's talk. $72 trillion stack of assets that boomers are sitting on, and it's going to pass on to millennials someday, thereby solving many of the economically beleaguered younger generation's problems. So your solution is supposed to be your grandma's passing. We done set it up where your grandma can pass and it's going to go to everybody. Because that wasn't your grandmama. It was your cousin. They made your grandmama your cousin and let her run around and call you grandbaby on Thanksgiving. Can we get to it today? When your grandmama passed and she ain't got but one kid, it's supposed to go to you. Don't let nobody tell you different. When your grandmama passed and she don't have nothing, you gonna live a hard life in America. Don't let nobody tell you different. What I want to talk to you today, because I got 1,000 of y'all and I'm going to get 20 to 30,000 of y'all, is first to give you the confidence to let it be known if you're struggling, it ain't your fault. Now, I'm not talking to somebody that went out and gambled it all away. I'm talking about the everyday hardworking, bus driving teacher teaching the community in these schools that don't understand why they can't get by. Because you're not supposed to live on that. That's what America changed to. Nobody told you? I'll tell you today. I'll explain it. When white people go from 2 trillion in 1980 to 25 trillion in 89 to 130 trillion in 2022 to 140, 150 trillion, you are living and making money that will be taxed at 40% and running against people who are getting handed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, because that's what people who live the American dream get transferred. Okay. Whew. I'm going to preach today an economic sermon. The investment bank isn't alone in coming to this conclusion. No less figure than Ray Dalio, the billionaire and former leader of what was many years the world's biggest hedge fund, wrote on LinkedIn page in August about a coordinated government maneuver that left household balance sheets rich and the state effectively broke. Again, Prop 13 in California, before you get our GoFundMe's to Eating Fires. Dalio did not mention the boomers or any generation by name, but B of A has now done him one better. Boomers have quite simply been the biggest beneficiary of a massive wealth transfer, wrote the B of A team led by Ocean Kwon, echoing Dalio's observation that trillions of wealth flowed from the public to the private sector thanks to the government policies since the 80s. Reaganomics trickled down. We let too many white folks win while black folks was playing brochure tech, baby, talking about we in them neighborhoods too. Okay. We didn't ask, is this a biracial person? Because really that's just a white person because the white line is carrying them. Huh? What do you mean? Jordan Peele. He black, he looked brown. But his white mama is his only line of social connection. So he's basically a white man inheritance-wise. But then it allows the system to say, well, black people got it good too. Okay. Barack Obama. Oh, but he is black. First of all, he's not ADOS. Daddy had went to Harvard, but he's a Kenyan. Second of all, what made Barack Obama ain't none of what you thought. It is the $500,000 in transfer that he got while he was president that reflects a lifetime of being a whole white man. Okay. You can go look that up in prior videos. I'm not guessing and I don't miss. What I'm saying to you today is for many of you, you were raised middle class by your black boomer parent because my parent had me so young. My parent isn't a true boomer like yours. Well, now's the time that they're supposed to finish the deal, the real transfer, to transition you into a comfortable life. And if that is not there, boy, baby, black wealth will disappear. You aren't able to sit down and talk about wills. You aren't able to sit down and talk about inheritance. You're supposed to say a consummate 15-year-old at Thanksgiving and you're 43 years old. Thank God they let you live in their house. How about seeing if they gave you the title to the house? Okay. B of A pointed to the ballooning government debt from 31% of GDP to 120% during that period of the 80s, and the 10-year treasury yield shrinking from 12 to 4.6%. So many trillions over this period, B of A calculates, U.S. household net worth has skyrocketed from 17 trillion to 150 trillion. Boomers, alongside traditionalists, hold 2/3 or $146 trillion of that total net worth. That is the show today. Boomers are the key to life in America because they made themselves central. And they still are. When their parents was old, they didn't have nothing in mass, bar few. Those were depression babies. They didn't have nothing. We don't know how long and how good they've had it. Y'all, many of y'all scared to ask your own daddy that's right around for $2,000. You better ask that man for $2,000. He be messing around and have it and won't give it to you. And y'all good on Thanksgiving. Okay. The imagery of this black capitalism that Nixon pushed, that was reignited under Reagan with the Cosby Show and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, reflected in these McDonald's owners and owning a franchise. How many of y'all know somebody that got done over by Subway when they opened too many Subways? Okay. All right. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about the losses. I'm going to go into an article that I wrote nearly a decade ago now, 2016, where I pulled the micro data of the federal data with a guy named Matt Brunig, an economist. And we showed that without the family car, black wealth barely exists. Large chunks of whites will inherit hundreds of thousands of dollars. Somewhere north of 30 to 35% of white families are worth more than $500,000, $600,000. There are 83 million white homes. So you got 20 million worth 600,000 or more. And 600,000 is nothing. While you got a grandma asking you for $75 because she can't get through the week. Okay. Okay. So what am I saying? What am I saying in numbers? Because this is Tone, you're not giving solutions. I don't understand. I'm confused. Well, I am giving you the solution. Just your mind don't comprehend it. And the solution is going to be that Black America will not have wealth when the boomers die. You can see it right here. So when you look at, let's look at, I have quarter 3, and I'll show that later. But quarter 2, 2024 was the most recent. And what you see, just looking at where our wealth is held in real estate, which is primarily the boomers' homes, like the lady we saw before, and I'm going to play her again. And also is held in their pensions. The people who have pensions basically right now are already retired because they ended pensions. We didn't fight. They basically ended them in the 90s in large part, bar a few government jobs. So what you see is if we have in total about $5 trillion, we don't exist in private business. Go talk to Earn Your Leisure and pay them $1,200 and whatever if you want to be fooled and the chicanery to go around. But in reality, Black wealth, about $5 trillion, but a lot, like almost over 60-70% of that is in boomer homes and their pensions and mutual funds. There it is. Oh, no, that's not all of it. Hold on. We're going to teach a lesson. But what's happening is, I want you to see this. This is 2022 quarter 3. White real estate was at 31 trillion. Just their real estate was at 31 trillion. What happened by the time we got to 2024 quarter 2? It had jumped by almost the entire worth of all Black folk wealth combined, 6 trillion. They take that money through all kind of chicanery and give it to their child that went to UCLA with you. The child don't tell you, and you wonder why they running around with the $1,000 stroller and got the season pass to Disney. Okay. Here we go. But to really understand my argument, you have to see this part. Is everybody in the chat still here? Everybody in the chat, if you still here, I see y'all in here. Do people understand what it is to have 1,000 people nearly in the chat? And we not talking about no, so that's low end hanging fruit. We are in here, you talking, listen to me talk about these damn sheep. Okay. Look at the real estate for Blacks in 2022 quarter 3. It was at 2.75 trillion. It's our biggest category. Nice for the lady to have a house that she's not going to leave to her kids. But what did it do while white real estate went up 6 trillion? Black real estate went down damn near $400 billion, which is almost, what is that? 20%? What that reflects, I believe, if I had to call it, is Black boomers are making a decision similar to that woman to not do responsible things with their wealth, and it will die with them. Meaning you get old and you didn't transfer it to your kids earlier so that when your old age and the medical coverage comes, they come and snatch the house, meaning that you do a HELOC or refi the money out and go on vacations, meaning that you don't upkeep the house and pay the property tax, meaning that you marry somebody young and have a new baby and she take the house, meaning that, come on, let's talk. Okay, bingo. I know somebody lost they mama lost the house in church bingo. Okay. Y'all talking to me about love and don't know what love look like. And what I'll tell you right now, before we continue on, is that it's over. Black wealth will disappear when retired Black boomers are gone. When they pass on? Okay. When they pass on, what is going to happen is that the category that has real estate and the category that has pensions will go to near zero. And there's nothing in the other categories. While at the same time, just like you saw this jump from 31 to 37 over the course of 2 years, these numbers are going to continue to jump. The price of goods, of housing, of education around you will exponentially go up. and you will be left holding the bag. Your children will look at you as the failure when it is not you. That's the lesson today. We talking today. Again, I just said it. I'm going to play the video again. Let me play this video again and come right back to this chart so you guys can hear this woman talk about what she said. Come on.
A dream can become a reality. It was a struggle for me to own it, but it was worth it.
By the early 1990s, Miss Plowden, who worked at St. Paul's Church, finally could afford to buy a home of her own. How much did you pay for your home? Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember. It was $120,000.
And what is your home worth now?
Over $500,000.
So when you pass on and you leave that to your children, you're leaving an estate.
An estate?
Yes, I am, but I don't intend to leave them a paid-for house.
I ain't gonna leave.
I intend to enjoy my.
This woman is in the sunset of her life, talking about she ain't gonna leave no inheritance when she done had these babies, these young men, old men probably, and they done had babies, and we up against this kind of growth. Do you guys understand? And I'll show you, because I'm not guessing when I say this. Somebody might not understand. Those are not charts that I created. They were created by the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. So they're not my numbers. They're the government's numbers. You just don't know that you black and you don't know who white people are. You live here, but you ain't really here. You think white people the same as us because they got 2 arms and 2 legs. Okay. You think we all the same. We just black and struggling. When you tell me why somebody without teeth in their mouth that is limited education can have $500,000 home, $600,000 home, because they just sat next to bad policy being done and they did not do advocacy. That is why we don't have ADOS. There is no way that people my age and Yvette's age should be the first time that we created this ADOS movement. This should have been done in the 70s. But you don't want to rock the boat. You come home at night, you do your 40 hours, you go back, you don't rock the boat. So when all the politics is changing around you, you don't really say nothing. Then on top of it, you don't take the money and save the money for your kids. You have another family on the side. How many of y'all got a daddy that got another family on the side? Okay. So Tone, what's the solution? What I'm telling you today is that the way this system is going to resolve itself is twofold. White America will continue to take off because of the policy that's in place to grow their assets. Black wealth will die because our assets are primarily tied to low-educated, dying part of our population that is self-interested. And this is just the truth of this show today. This is not about what you're doing and what. I mean, I guess you can go talk about the will, but if she already did the refi, you just finding out the truth late. Without the family car, black wealth barely exists. Antonio Moore and Matt Brunig. This data is not me going out and surveying. This is the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances that they don't show you. So then that's why it's my job to show you. The 2016 Survey of Consumer Finances, again, this was done back in 2017, right when it came out. But again, we have the newer numbers that I just showed you, Q2 2024. But I'm going back to this article to frame the tragedy that is Black life, because many of you don't know what a tragic life is. You just live it. Oh, what you mean? Well, it's a tragic life to have 2 kids, 3 kids, and not have $10,000 in an account, like just tap money. Tap. It's a tragic life if you got to give your mama money that lived during that era, and then she voted for Trump or voted for any right winger and voted for Kemp, and you got to sit there and take it because that's just her, is what everybody in the family say. Okay. You live in tragedy. You born in the mud, so you don't know what muddy is. Okay. The 2016 Survey of Consumer Finance was released last week, providing extensive new data on the assets and liabilities of American families. Many touted gains in wealth for minorities, while failing to deal with the darker nuances of the underlying data. Median wealth, skipping down, median wealth is being shown as having increased to $162,000 for the middle white American family and to $16,000 for the middle black American family. But what I wanted to show y'all in this article that I did is they was lying or misrepresenting the data. What they were doing was they were basically not telling you that the bulk of the little 16,000 they were using to make black people look like they had a little something was the family car and also clothes. When you took out the family car, what happened is that number dropped all the way to 4,000, and you took out the clothes and the TV, which shouldn't be counted as assets, it dropped down like $1,400. While the white wealth dropped from 162 to like 120, 125 at the middle though, the middle. As noted by Professor Edward Wolf, it would be better to use a wealth concept that excludes these kind of consumer durables as they are not readily convertible to cash. Their consumption value typically far outweighs their resale value. When we exclude the family car, we get a somewhat different wealth narrative than the one being told across media platforms nationally. Without the family car, the middle black family has a net worth of $4,000. The middle white American family, in contrast, is still worth $140,000. This means using an accounting model that more accurately excludes the family car, the median white family is worth over 33 times that of a median black family. Lastly, intra-race disparities tell a far too often overlooked story. Wealth is not distributed unevenly just among whites. The data shows that the top 20% of black families control 95% of the little American black wealth that does exist. And those are primarily old black boomers. So when they die, what I'm effectively saying in gist is that 95% gonna disappear. We see it in the chart. Look, white wealth from 2022 quarter 3, all white real estate wealth, it jumped from 31 trillion to 37 trillion. The little black real estate wealth, which is pretty much boomer houses, dropped from 2.75 to 2.37. And it goes back to the sentiment in the video I just showed you. You ain't got to play with me. 310-388-3499. Many of you just want to hear. Bobby Ocho said this was 2027. No, this right here, it says 2024, Bobby. Right here. I was just sharing that in 2016. When you look at what has happened with white wealth, look at the categories. Black wealth is down here. We live in like, when you see Hispanic, these are people that recently, 1 or 2 generations came from a third world country. They can't even represent our money in colors. A lot of these lines are not even big enough to have a line. Whites have $37 trillion in real estate. They have $6 trillion in just consumer durables. That's the TV and the clothes and the car. They have $41 trillion in corporate equities and mutual funds. They have $13.9 trillion in benefit pensions. They have defined contribution pensions of $11 trillion. They have private businesses of $13 trillion. They have other assets. That's where the cash is of $24 trillion. The reason I know that's the other cash is because there's the governors or how they organize the executive structure of the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. And I emailed with them and I specifically asked, where is the cash? And they said it's hidden along with a few other things in the other assets. So while black people have, let's look back at the black number, 750 billion altogether or so, all the black families combined. Whites have 23 trillion or 24 really in cash on hand. Okay. And that's not even talking about the other categories. I'm here having this discussion with you to make sure that you are preparing yourself for the reality that is upon us, not to come, that is upon us, that it will be over for wealth in terms of black folks when the boomers pass on. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? 414. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Antonio from the Wall.
What up, Tony?
What made me call, man, is because I have this thing where I tell my people, like, black people are the only people who think America's wealth was built in one generation. We're the only people to think that we're supposed to start over each time and think we're supposed to be competitive. And I called in before, so my situation. I did 13 and a half years incarcerated. So, getting out, and I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, one of the most incarcerated states in the country for black males, actually the most incarcerated state in Wisconsin. And I grew up in 530-206, which is the most incarcerated zip code in America. So now, just understanding, like, for me to get out, and now I've never had a job. I've only did entrepreneur stuff, like I sell line detergent, tissue, stuff like that. So when you talk about the false concept of these wealthy businesses being built in this space and false images, I support you 100%. But I'm in a situation where I had a vehicle go down. I called my step-pops. I said, listen, even my mom said I was 4 years old. I said, listen, man, won't you help me get a vehicle? I ain't never used credit. I got my business. I got the smoothest line detergent around. He said, I never taught you nothing, but that don't mean I should have to help you with your business. This is a man who had a trade based on the skills his daddy taught him. This is a man who got a job working for the city due to affirmative action, who somehow believes he did it by himself.
Somebody in the chat said, what's the point of these if it's over? Well, you can go somewhere else. Go listen to Kendrick Lamar's show again. I don't know. Get the fuck out of here. So I don't know. The point of this, we having a building conversation where this man is giving his testimonial. So if you don't know that, then you can get on. Go ahead. Finish your story. I'm sorry.
The point is awareness. The point is awareness. The point is not to continue to pass this down. The point is to understand that it's not just going to be a business solution. You're going to need a political solution. The point is to educate yourself to understand that their wealth was built through political position and not because they outworked you. That is the point of this conversation. If they have an issue understanding that, then that's a big part. That's one of the reasons why we're in this condition. It's because they don't understand these people came up off of socialism. That was the New Deal. That was socialism. A 30-year mortgage, which when they got them houses, they came with appliances and everything. So that means the government backed the jobs that was built. That's GE and all of the appliance companies to build the suburbs. Somebody
asked why it will be so. Because you voted for Trump. Goddamn idiot. Because let me tell you why it'll be so. So what you're saying, just to be clear, and this is the problem I run into, and y'all, I know some of you guys, I really don't care. I like in reality, I'm a very highly educated man. And so what happens is I'll say something and you already supposed to just know it. And if you don't know it, it might be something you can't grasp in terms of the conversation. So when I say that the money went from 2.75 to 2.3, while white real estate went from 31 to 37, and I tell you that those are refis, I'm not going to teach you what a refi is. What is happening likely is that the money that is there is not being treated in a mature way. So the immaturity is not to transfer it to your children at a stage before you get sick medically, so they take the house. The immaturity is a set of politics where you just did enough to get a property tax protection in your old age, but not for what Prop 13 was in California, where they were able to pass it down until 2020. The immaturity is to not even teach your kids any trades or not be there when they need a business loan. If you don't understand that, you living hard, baby. I can't teach you how to live good. Go ahead.
I think, Tony, you got to make them understand too. The point of this is the fact that you gave people a process in order to be politically relevant with the vote, the Democratic vote that batted down elections ago, so that we can show our strength as ADOS, and that we need the political, and so that we can voice our political opinion and what we agenda. So, and we failing to do those things and just surrendering our vote without voicing no opinion or having no collective understanding of our condition is why we're in this condition. So that's why the conversation matters.
The queue is full. Let me get you out of here. Thanks so much, Tom, for calling. That's Antonio from Milwaukee. Shout out to him. I got a whole full queue. But you ain't got to talk to me. Many of y'all wasn't raised good. See, like, I want you to understand that I'm half crazy, half sane. So when you say something wrong, I might light you up, and I'm sorry for that. But I also want you to understand that when I say I'm crazy, I'm saying it in a way where I ain't got time like your mama did to talk to you real slow. So if you don't know about Nixonian black capitalism, if you don't know about Reaganomics, if you don't know how you had a typecast of bad people that came out of that believed in a false narrative of post-racialism, you won't keep up with this discussion. Now, I will say, me and Yvette Carnell have walked people for a decade through that. You just getting here because you was following Kendrick at the damn Super Bowl. Young man didn't know what he's talking about. That's why he at the Super Bowl. It's levels. It's levels. You don't know that there's a reason that they throttled this channel. Oh, what you mean they throttled? There's a reason that the New York Times was sent down to cover our conference when they don't send people to cover conferences. And the lady said literally that this story of ADOS on this political movement that we've created, me and Yvette Carnell, got more scrutinized than the Palestinian stuff. And that's the only time she's seen this much scrutiny. Every editor in the New York Times read this stuff because I know I'm right. There's a reason that Harvard put out a false narrative on us talking about stuff to make us look like damn near like terrorists from Russia talking about coronavirus, then said we got it all wrong. Editorial failure. Well, all the right people read it because I'm trying to tell you that you the Hunger Games and you ain't the good part. You level, what they call that, level 12. You level 12. You the one with the wrenches that are dirty. Can we talk? A Bad Check for Black America, written by who? Mehrsa Baradaran. The reason why that's important is because of this. I interviewed Mehrsa Baradaran on my channel. You can go watch it for free. I don't charge you like Boyce or like Earn Your Leisure or like Jay Morrison. Go watch it for free. How the stimulus misses the mark. Nixon had endorsed the idea that human rights of Black Americans was intimately bound up with their right to own property and accrue the economic power that comes from propriety wealth. Around this juncture, 69, some 163,000 Black firms existed in the U.S. I'm not going to fully teach Black capitalism nor the lie of it, but I'm framing this story around a time when Black boomers signed up for it whole. They believed in it. And how what has happened as a result is white people were able to take that capitalism and basically strike a stake in your heart before you were born economically. And how what we will see, and so you don't get frustrated over the reason you drive in Uber right now is because of bad politics. And it ain't just Republicans. There is no gig work without Barack Obama. They launched Uber in March of 2009. Barack Obama is sworn in late January of 2009. That was not on accident. It was a month later. They planned for you to drive that Uber car. Ain't no real job. You ain't doing nothing but liquidating your car. Want to talk? Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Jay from Florida.
All right.
Thank you. I want to say before, I just want to thank you that I hear you sometimes. I feel like you're frustrated, but I thank you for waking up so many people. I mean, before you and that taught me the way you have, I was that person that felt bad. I'm just, why is it so hard? Why can't I get ahead? Not understanding how these people around me, people I work with, get ahead. You know, I used to see it. They'd be like, hey, my father or my father-in-law put down money on the house. They live out in the woods, somewhere with a nice house. And I was like, okay, I never really thought about it. But then when y'all started telling us about it, it made so much sense. But I called you today because there's two things you said that hit so close to home. I put the comment in the section, but two things you said. You said, somebody getting messed over because they had a subway and they opened up the subway. And my family's Adolf. My cousin, family's Adolf. We grew up super poor in the ghetto. He grew up, when he got to be an adult, he married a lady from the island. She was American, but her parents from the island. She had a good job, homeless. And if you say what you said about Subway, it hits so close to home. Like, wow.
Yeah, because part of what they did with them subways, just making sure you know the backstory, they promised them certain areas, and then they basically what ended up happening is they started stacking them so close that you couldn't make no profit, and then they started giving out all them coupons and stuff. So you basically in there just running around in circles because it's a subway down the street. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was there. He used to be like, Javon, I can't make any profits because they're forcing me to do $5 footlongs. I get no profit margin. And it goes up. Damn near crazy.
Let me. I got a full queue, bro. I appreciate you calling. I'm gonna let. Please stay tuned in. I'm gonna keep going because I want to get through the rest of the show. I'm gonna keep it going. Don't worry about nobody talking in the chat. I'm good. They probably came from your leisure. You know, the basketball playing dude and the PE coach. Y'all listening to a basketball playing dude that somehow hooked up with his parent, and then a PE coach. Okay. And they're going to teach you for $125 a month, $1,200 a year. They're going to teach you finances. All right. All right. You notice that nobody say nothing like they did with what's the cool black dude with the glasses? I forgot his name. They be talking to he ran up. They ran up on him. Don't say nothing about Tone. Don't say nothing. All I'm saying is, why is it $1,200? Who got $1,200? If I just told you that the middle black family is worth $4,000 without their car and like $1,500 without their clothes too, who got the $1,200 to pay these people so they can have these suits on? Looking real like Jay Morrison out here. You got Jay Morrison. He said he cut his real estate class from $499 to $1,999. We ain't heard from Jay Morrison since I shut him down. Saved a lot of y'all from giving him all the money. You remember that? I said it when wasn't nobody saying it. That it don't make no sense what this man talking about. Quiet. Say my name. Don't mention me. You got Boyce. He's selling he can turn your child into a millionaire. In the chat for somebody get honest that bought this. Is your child a millionaire yet? Because that child probably is old now, and we got enough that became 22. Are they a millionaire yet? Since he can turn them into a millionaire in a world where there literally are little to no black millionaires, he gonna turn your child, the one that came from you and your mama and your granddaddy, into a millionaire. But hold on, isn't that shop pay just like Klarna? So he gonna do it on layaway. He gonna offer it on layaway, damn near. You can pay in quarters. You fuck around, run into debt trying to buy his millionaire class. Look at it. It say pay in 4 interest-free installments. That's just like that Klarna stuff. Boys out here doing Klarna on a $99 class. But what we really have is black young men. Will you hire me? No felonies. High school graduate. Need help. He can pass a drug test. And we do not have opportunities. We do not have jobs. The point of my show today is to tell you we are in the midst of a switch and a calamity unlike we have seen in our lifetimes, where black wealth will be nearly nothing as you sit and talk about nothing, who Cardi B is dating, how Serena Williams crick walk looked. Okay. While this white wealth will continue to grow. Come on. I'm talking today about these numbers, and I'm going to get deep into the numbers in a second, but I had to say this because I have this article here by Forbes, the sneaky ways parents transfer money to their children. And when they talk about their children, they talk about their 40-year-old children. Give undisclosed cash. You can withdraw up to $10,000 at one time before your bank reports a transaction to the IRS. Now, if that stack should wind up in your kid's possession, who'll be the wiser? Didn't I just tell y'all that 2 shows ago? I told you guys that. If they wanted to have a mechanism to monitor that, they could. They don't want to. I mean, in the government. That's how you live. That's normal. 10,000 from your parents. Aren't you a good child? 20,000. This is America. Peter Ostonian, Senior Vice President at Wealth Enhancement Group, squirms at this question. Listen, that's really going to be left to the individual. Does it happen? Certainly. Has it happened for anybody in here where grandma was in the room and all of a sudden there was an envelope and you open the envelope and it's $10,000 in there because she know you having a hard time? Pay their credit card bill. It's as simple as adding an authorized user to your cell phone call, and your child has funds for daily expenses with you footing the bill. But Tarabi points out that if your child makes more than a $19,000 charge per year, you need to report it as a gift. The honor system. Incorporate. I had a child with 2 commercial properties, says Andrew Crowell, Vice Chairman of Wealth Management for D.A. Davidson & Co. Rental income would come in each month, and she wanted to transfer it to her children, who felt would be better off using it now rather than inheriting it later. So we put the real estate holding into an LLC, and she designated her children as partners. When the rental income came in, they received the funds and paid tax on it, as they would on any salary. This works only as long as the kids don't own a part of the business as partners, which would be a gift. Hire your children. If a parent owns a business, making their kid an employee is a canny gift tax workaround. Corwell just warns that you can't overpay. The IRS will flag egregious inflated wages. They giving their kids money. So we are dealing with a cataclysmic failure and collapse of Black wealth where it will not exist. And we see white wealth taking off. And these are the tools and mechanisms that you are not even aware of that they use. And you asking me for the solution. Well, this is the solution. Your grandma got to do this, or your mama. This is the solution right here. Let me take a next caller. I want him to follow it through with me. Caller, what's your name? 419?
My name is Marvin, and I'm in Ohio.
Okay. Hold on, Marvin. I brought you in because I want you to hear the rest of the article. I want you to give me your
okay.
take. So the other things that they're doing is buy a PED Terry. So you're a parent who enjoys trips into an apartment into the city, and you have an apartment there, but you never sleep in that every night. So you can basically have your child live in the PED Terry. Give me your quick thought on how on these tools that white folks are using to give their children actual wealth in life.
Actually, I see it every day at my job and where I work. I work for a large Fortune 500 corporation, which I'm paying the pension plan still. And I see this when I'm 53, I went to an early retirement plan. You know how many white people in there had $4 to $8 million in mutual funds? I'm looking like, damn. But their parents work for that company, and they just pass it down. And I tell it to a lot of Black people, and what I see with us is that a lot of us who came here, my parents was a migration north to Ohio. My dad had a union job, but they weren't baby boomers. They were silent generation. So they got a pension, but a lot of those jobs don't exist anymore. But what I see here with a lot of Black people, I got in conversation with one of my friends. I can remember here in Ohio, these people bought their house. I think my father back in the 50s paid $12,000 for a house. We blockbusted. Now these houses are like $250 here, and Black people are losing them. And I told a friend that he got Black. I said, man, you can get a house where we're from for $150,000, a decent house. And a lot of us can't afford that. You know how that cheap is in America? $150,000 home, a 3-bedroom, like 1,000 square foot ranch. You can't get that anywhere else in America, and we're losing that.
Somebody said somebody in the chat said jobs can't be inherited. Neither can pensions. So if a quarter of our wealth is in Black pensions, that's something you just get for you. My mama had a little bit of something. Yeah. They had pushed her from plan A to plan C at the LA County with a little hustle that they did to all the young babies in '84. But then you can't really give that to your kids. So we got a bunch of a lot of assets that will die right when they die. writing that pension. What am I talking about? I'm talking about looking at this thing in detail. We're not just talking, we doing the work. I'm talking about this category right here, defined pension benefits. This 1.67, that's about a quarter of the whole. Oh, it just dies. What don't die is this one. Is this one, the corporate equities. Look at the difference in the numbers.
Also, the quality of the job. It's like I have a 401k too. And like I was trying to tell one of my friends, I have no kids, so I have a trust where it goes to my nieces and nephews. And hopefully they do it right. Because like when that lady said she's going to spend her own money, I've seen that all the time. I hear people who I work with, black men, and they're in their 70s, they're retired. I'm just going to take all this stock I got for this company, I'm going to cash it in, go to Vegas, and blow it.
Hey, Carla, look. Like let me say this. I got to keep running because I don't want to keep the show too long. I'm sorry, bro. You always got great things, but I got a full queue. I want to give everybody a chance to get in here. We got 1,000 people in here. I know a lot of people are going through things, struggling, and I appreciate you calling, man, and I don't want you to think I was hanging up on you. I just was looking at the specific. I wanted to stop right where you said. One of the things is we just don't know. Black people don't know black people, and black people don't know white people. And white people don't know nothing but their own whiteness. So what you end up with is that we'll talk about these black people that have stocks. Look, you can look. This is the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, Q2 2024. Black people have pensions and they owe. We don't really have no stocks. So we got all these classes and ain't nobody got no stocks because ain't nobody got no money. They giving it all to these people in these class money. So I come back to what I'm saying. You can't get these pensions, don't really pass down like that. So what you end up with is what does pass down these corporate equities. That's the stock right there. And that, what am I talking about? What category is that? White. White people have almost all the stock. They need to go sell their classes to them white people. See if they'll pay $1,200 to a PE teacher and a basketball players. Annual membership. Okay. How to turn your child into a millionaire. Just give them $1 million. Let me say that again. How to turn your child into. Just give them $1.1 million and they be a millionaire. And got the damn Klarna stuff at the bottom. This is shop pay. Paying 4 interest installments to Boyce Watkins. And you can teach them. Look, here you go, right here. You can see them smiling. Teach the kids and let them lead the way. Okay. Let's continue on because I don't want to. I'm coming to you. Don't hang up. I'm going to come to you in the chat. Give y'all a chance to close out because y'all called in. The sneaky ways parents transfer money to their children. I talked about buying basically a vacation or something in the city, and it's really not for them. They doing this. Get creative with mortgages. Finance expert Farnoosh Tarabi is no stranger to parental supports. It's how she bought her first apartment. If a child can't get a mortgage themselves, a parent can buy their child a place in cash, she says. Then once the apartment is purchased, the child opens a home equity line of credit, or HELOC, pulls all the money out of that and gives it back to their parents, which puts them most of the way back to where they started. Okay. The child then refinances the HELOC into a fixed rate mortgage in their own name. Now they're a homeowner and their parents have most of their initial loan. Most of. Okay. Cover tuition. There are 2 kinds of transactions parents can pay on behalf of their children without triggering a gift tax, as long as they make those payments directly to the relevant institution. So one of the loopholes they're saying around taxation is that you can pay directly to the school, and they set that up. Why? Because your parent is supposed to pay for your school. Okay. As long educational costs and medical expenses is the reason private K through 12 schools have Grandparents' Day, said Ramnani. Grandparents can also contribute to 529 plans, and while the amount is dictated by gift tax rules, the gift grows tax-free as long as it's used for approved expenses. Roxana Reed, an educational consultant in New York, said that over the past 5 years, she has seen more grandparents reaching out than in her previous 16 years running her business, because you live on your parents that are the boomers, and now she's talking about people that are younger millennials or even beyond, below that. And the boomers are paying because that's the era that took off. They got the assets to take off. Golly. Y'all don't know. It ain't just about whiteness. It's about age too. Y'all don't see this? Y'all don't understand what I'm saying? So when you look at this blue line go up, I've never explained this because I presumed you understood. This can be the same asset held by the same person in a single lifetime. But the difference that happens for us is right here in this video. Let me play it again.
A dream can become a reality. It was a struggle for me to own it, but it was worth it.
By the early 1990s, Miss Plowden, who worked at St. Paul's Church, finally could afford to buy a home of her own. How much did you pay for your home? Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember. It was $120,000,
And what is your home worth now?
over $500,000.
So when you pass on and you leave that to your children,
An inheritance.
you're leaving an estate.
Yes, I am, but I don't intend to leave them a paid-for house. I intend to enjoy my money and my house.
What is this woman talking about? That man tried to clean it up, talk about her children had a home later on or something. It still was supposed to leave it. Leave it to the grandbabies. America ain't playing with us. So they covering tuition. Now the same kind of grandparents shoulder her consultant fee, which is hundreds of dollars per hour. She's constantly mediating generational differences between millennial parents who want the Mandarin immersion program at Avenues and grandparents who want the Trinities, the Daltons, the Horace Manns, the Burleys, the Collegians, the Riverdales. What is your child? Is they a Riverdale or are they a collegian? Offer a below market loans. Say you want your children to help your children buy an apartment, says Avani Ramani, managing director and partner at Francis Financial. You say, here, I'm giving you $1 million, but it must be a loan to avoid the gift tax. It must be documented with terms in a promissory note and carry an interest rate corresponding to the applicable federal rate set by the IRS, which tends to be lower. So now we moving from the $10,000, the $25,000 monthly or annual gift to something bigger, something real, substantial, $1 million. Well, what you do to not trigger the IRS is you do it in these ways that's really just me giving you money again. They set it up for this. Fail to charge interest, the IRS will tax you on the earned income you should have received by doing so. It will also reclassify the loan as a gift. If they wanted people not to do this, why are we not seeing people go to jail for it? Because we know people doing it anyway. Because this is how you live now. What triggered this discussion in part is you're seeing the mean age of parents at birth go up because people are being forced to wait later to have children. Many people will point to Black people and not understand. We're not talking about accidentally having a child with somebody you went on 3 dates with. We talking about planned children here. And I'm not saying Black people don't plan their children. I'm saying you can't use the mean age because we're talking about planned in wedlock, that child. We know the numbers. We're not going to go into details about the gap between the two. And what I said is somebody asked, no way, what happened in 71? I said the decline in the line showing average age, bearing age, likely aligns with the rise of working class jobs for boomers that were created by their parents. I'm talking about this drop. You see the New Deal, you see civil rights. So people are able to have children younger, buy homes younger, buy cars younger, access credit. The oldest boomer is 77. They would have been 25 in 73. The politics of their parents, the babies of the Depression, created the advantage for their lives. And these same boomers failed to continue it and ate the lie of Nixonian Black capitalism and Reaganomics whole, and then gave all of the gains for the middle class back to the rich. The reason you love Diddy is because your mama told you to. You just don't know she programmed you early. The reason you liked Elon so much is that your mama told you he was a genius, or your daddy did, or somebody, because they don't know. You ain't supposed to like no billionaire like that. Unless they talking about doing some radical politics. But most people don't get to talk to people who got real bread. I tried to bring you discussions with a real person with real bread, likely probably one of the richest men in the black men in the history of the nation. When we was talking about Byron is suing Comcast, and y'all let high school dropouts and knuckleheads try to tell you, oh, that didn't go that way. Okay. I don't know how it go. I never had $10 million. I know that he got $100 million house and owns the Weather Channel. There's 4 news networks: Weather Channel, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, and he owned one of them. And I brought a whole interview with him to you, and you want to listen to High School Dropout. What's wrong with you? And you went to college. So this idea of black capitalism, it sits on top of black politics, a politics that had eroded and been replaced with a false narrative around black capitalism. And what you see is y'all got 8 hole and know none the wiser, and out here doing layaway from millionaire class with literacy cards. Now your black boomers are dying off, and you only now finding that they refied the house to play bingo. No, now as you come 40, 45 years old, you only now finding out, oh, this is how America moves. There's undisclosed cash gifts. There's paying the credit cards. There's paying the tuition. There's hiring you. There's incorporation. There's below market loans. There's having a piece of real estate that they don't live in that you live in. This is where you live in America. Okay. Somebody said we got addicted to consumerism. My pushback to that would be, and I'm gonna have to kind of rush through. I'm coming to the callers, but I'm gonna keep it brief with you guys. White people spend money too. Look, everybody be talking about black people spend money, and I don't mean this in any, because you were taught that by like Boyce. He ain't know that. You think Boyce was cool in high school or college? Look at him. I don't think so. Look, black people have $500 billion in consumer durables. White people have $6 trillion. When you go to Best Buy, look around and ask yourself who you think buys all the things in Best Buy. It ain't black folk. So this Jordan myth that they said, I'm not saying that there aren't some black people that buy Jordans, but the primary things we buy is responsible stuff like soap and toilet tissue. Our problem is we don't have no wealth. Don't let nobody lie to you with no Nixonian right-wing nonsense. I'm just trying to bring it to you today. I ain't playing. Out here doing layaway on how to be a millionaire classes. Think about the craziness of that. You can do the how to turn your child into a millionaire, but if you ain't got all the money, I set you up with this Klarna shop paid stuff. Teach the children, let them lead the way. Man, we gonna get this man out of here with them long teeth. Let's go. This chart is a representation of the entirety of this discussion, and we've talked about it so many times that I'm gonna briefly explain it to you, but it shows what I'm saying. So when you look at this vertical line, it is the share of percentage of wealth held by each group, and the 2 groups that are represented on this chart are the bottom 90% and the top 0.1. That's how few families had the same amount of wealth at the Depression, and how few families have the same amount of wealth now. So you have this small amount of 10,000, 30,000 white families primarily that had the same amount of wealth as the whole bottom 90% of America, which included all of Black America, and they also now have it. What happened as a result of good policy done by the post-Depression babies is that the red line, which is the share of wealth, the bottom 90, they went from 24% of the overall wealth holding to around 35%. That's why that lady had a house. She don't look like she would have a house today. The woman that I showed 3 times. So they gave her that house. There are New Deal policies, FHA loans, civil rights. Then you have the share of wealth held by the top 0.1, those small amount of families. They broke their money up. They made them pay 90% tax on the money when they died. They made them pay property tax on commercial property. It was all properties. They made them give jobs to people and pay fair wages. Well, after Reaganomics in 1980, and that's why I keep bringing up this imagery, because this imagery is a reflection of people who ate this whole, that if I just work at the company, then everything's fine. While you sell McDonald's to the hood, God damn it, This nigga. You sold all that trash and killed all them people with that food. And so, and while you let McDonald's own that property, how about it? You know about that? Y'all know about that? When McDonald's really a real estate business and they be keeping the property and be having y'all run around on top thinking you somebody because you got a franchise. But nonetheless, back to this point, your psyche, your identity is not born of your era. It is born of your grandmama's era, and that's a problem. So you are coming in the chat talking to me like it's 1979 and it's 2025. And what happened over the course of those set of years is wealth took off, and we didn't take off with it, but we made sure that grandma kept her house with them protections for old people to not pay property tax. But we didn't take care of ourselves, and we let them give us these student loans, or you let them make the gig jobs so we don't have a real job that's a floor that you can't fall beneath. Gig jobs aren't real jobs. They just you liquidating your car. All them driving jobs. So when we look at this chart over the course of your life, the bottom 90, which is where you are at, if you're not worth probably about, 70 to 100,000, roughly, something like that. Talking about cash, you got, so you in the bottom 90, and even if you right above that, actually, I'm sorry, it's more than that. My apologies. It's probably more like bottom 90, top 10. It's probably more like nearly $1 million, actually. So you in the bottom 90, but we in the bottom half of the bottom 90, and so as a race, so. That group, the whole bottom 90, went to having only 24% of the wealth, while the top 0.1, and we celebrated Diddy and the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and Elon and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg in the movie, and now they have more wealth because it's actually crossed than the bottom 90, and we all signed up for it. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? 708? All right, I'm gonna drop you. 323. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello? It's North, calling from California.
Give me your take, North. You the last caller of the night.
All right. Well, a few things. First and foremost, this is something that I've been waiting for you to do for a while. They tell people to just give it up already and stop believing in nonsense. For me, it happened in 2010 when I lost my Uber, and after that, all of the other problems continued. Just so you guys know, since you didn't want to deal with it, I'm not talking about anybody in the chat except for those of you did. But anyway, since you don't want to deal with the fallacy of the parent, it's about to deal with you. I said a couple of months ago on Coon's channel that there had to be a fight in the first place that happened in 80 or plus between boomers and younger Gen. Whether you want to believe it or not, it has to happen. Mm-hmm. Like, did you just hear what this man just said? He told you. He's telling you. Even though I think he's being a bit nice, he's telling you to give it up. Mm-hmm. There is no side hustle, no job, no none of that. But do you not see who's in the White House? Do you not see what they just took away from you? What you did yourself? I'm going to tell my business. I'm on Section 8. I have a disability. Okay? I went to college. I understood everything that he said to me without a problem, and I've understood it since 2010. Some of you folks who are grown, and goodness help you if you're in your 50s. Okay? Right about now, you're behaving as retarded. That's what you are.
Man, North, look.
And the fact that you want to get in this man's mentions or whatever you want to call it, and you want to play
around. Play around. North, they playing around. Hey, North, I'm gonna do something different right now on the way out. So it's a lot of people, whether they playing or not, about to learn a lesson, because I'm ending the show heavier than I started it, and I started heavy, so that means that I might hurt your heart with this one. Not yours, North. These folk that don't know, I'm not that one. So I showed you, and this is the same chart, just displayed a little differently. What did I show you? I showed you this right here. And I showed you the white wealth, and I showed you the black is the red and the black and the Hispanic line. I showed you that, right? Then I showed you this, and it's the reflection of that in a chart, those numbers. So this is the blue line in categories. This is the red line in categories. What we see is that pretty much all of black wealth is pension and real estate. And we mean real estate, we mean the old black boomers with their house, the one that was in the video that I showed. And so now, and I also showed you the growth from 2022 to 2024. What I did not show you is what I'm going to show you now. I'm going to try to keep it brief and just show you three things, but I will put the final this chart on my Twitter so you can look for yourself. They didn't give us economic data until 1989. I interviewed Thomas Shapiro, author of Black Wealth, White Wealth, that came up with the term racial wealth gap. You can go find that on my channel. They weren't telling us that black people were like non-existent before 89. But we weren't non-existent in the same way that we're non-existent today because white folks hadn't taken off. So when you looked at white wealth at 89, they only had $6 trillion in real estate. We had 0.34, but they only had 6. Well, what has happened over the course of your life is they now have 37 trillion. And we only have 2, but on that 2 is all boomer wealth. That's what I was telling you. Now, the other categories are what really tell the story, because you look and their private business was only at 2. Their corporate equities was only at 2. Well, now they got $41 trillion in private equities, stocks. And now they have $13.6 trillion in private business. When I look at this chart, I want you to see some thematics that are showing up. And this is a set of charts from the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. Don't guess, don't miss. I want you to see the jumps that happen here. So this 6 jumps all the way to 19.51 between 89 and 06. In that 15 to 16 year window, they jumped $14 to $15 trillion in their real estate wealth, white folk. We dropped 0.9. What's interesting is that from 06 to 16, they didn't see any growth. Nearly any. 19.51, 19.69. In fact, our growth, the boomer growth, the boomers that took care of themselves, was on par with white growth, which was both nearly nothing. What happened in 2016, quarter 4, was Trump comes into office. And at the start of his office in 2017, white folks are only at 19.69. By the time he leaves, he done took them to $26 trillion. Thank you, Black America, for voting for Trump to make sure that we get more money. You see this truth of 2 trillion between 16 and 2021. You see another 10 trillion between 2021 and 2024. They are taking off due to policy from Obama to Trump to Biden to Trump. And that's just their real estate. While black real estate is nearly nothing. Almost like it's still the 80s. I want you to look at another category. I want you to look at pension. So when you look at pension, for black folks, it rose from 89 being about 320 billion to 06 to being 830 billion. Then it flattened out from 16 to 2021, 1.74 trillion, 1.87 trillion. And then it started to shrink, where it's 1.69 trillion. Because no one thought that you would, no one protected you. They did not do the politics for there to be any black wealth when I talk about black boomers. Basically, they set a world up that's going to economically die for black people over the next several years. It shows right here in the chart. I'm going to post this chart, and you can read through it and look at the different years and look at the different numbers and how they grow and don't grow. You can look at how white wealth has expanded. So what the overarching truth is that when white people were down here in 89, labor meant that in your lifetime you could work and not catch up to them necessarily, but live a good life on labor next to them. Once they take off like this, you have to live on labor with a lot of transfers that come out of this, which basically cuts a lot of y'all out, which also means that when the effects of people not looking out for you and doing the politics to protect you, and I'm not going to get deep into it, from student loans, Joe Biden's role in creating the student debt crisis stretches back to the 70s. Go check out that article. When people don't protect you and teach you about politics, and there's no political education, you run around here with MAGA, but don't understand what? In 2022, about half of Black Americans younger than 65 were insured through an employer or a private insurer, according to KFF, while nearly 40% were insured through Medicaid. As GOP hardliners spent the weekend pushing party leaders to cut deeper into Medicaid in an effort to advance Donald Trump's tax and border agenda. They're going to cut your Medicaid, and 40% of y'all on Medicaid, and you did this. Does everyone understand that in 2008, whites had below 70 trillion, in 1990, 22 trillion, but now they had like 115, 130 trillion. You need large inheritance to undergird a high-functioning American family. Look at that chart. Look at them categories. Look at them colors. Real estate is the gray. Consumer durables is the yellow. Corporate equities is the brown. That's they stocks. We are not seeing that seedlings were planted and watered. What we're actually seeing is a pathway that we're at the bottom of a hill that y'all don't even know you're at the bottom of. Part of what I wanted to do in this show, in this hour or so, was just to tell you it's over, baby. Black wealth will disappear when retired boomers are gone. Get your mind right, get your mind straight so that you don't shut yourself down as it happens. This is Tone Talks. Please go to tonetalks.net, subscribe, donate, or share. Thank you so much for tuning in.